And we are live. Thank you for downloading another episode of the Black and Gold podcast, brought to you by ZBox Mattress. Go to zboxmattress.com right now. Use promo code Black and Gold. That's right, Colin Cameron. Colin Cameron texted me earlier this week. Hope you're listening, Colin. And said, "Hey, what's the name of that? What's the name of that promo code again? It's Black and Gold." Go to zboxmattress.com. Check out all their products, their pillows, their mattress toppers, and their mattresses. Check out the ZBox Hybrid mattress, which has hundreds of pocket spring coils inside the mattress. You get the support of a spring coil mattress, but the benefits of foam shipped directly to your door. Materials from the U.S., manufactured in the U.S., shipped directly to wherever you live. I guess in the lower 48. If you're in Alaska, send them an email before you buy something from them. I don't know if they're shipping to Alaska, but still, App State fans love ZBox Mattress. They're huge supporters of App State Athletics and the Black and Gold podcast. So please do go check them out at zboxmattress.com. Promo code Black and Gold gets you 10% off your entire shopping cart. So you can buy several mattresses, several pillows. It doesn't matter. You're going to get 10% off your entire order. I'm your host, Alex Johnson. We are going live right now from our private Facebook group, the 333 Club. And with me, as always, is the world's most famous App State fan. He is a Big C on a Tuesday night. What's going on, buddy?
So I'm curious, how do these ZBox mattresses, they're not inflated or anything like that, are they? I'm just thinking about like a ZBox and an Igloo. Like how would that work? Would it keep you warm? How does that work? You've got one.
What?
Tell me how that thing comes out of the box, blows up to that mattress. Like, you got to push a button. Is it like an air mattress? Is it like a camping mattress? What you got?
No, it's a premium foam mattress with lovely materials that make up the outer shell. It's great. There are no buttons. There's no pump.
Okay, all right, just making sure. I didn't think there were, but
and
do igloos have electrical outlets in there? Like, do you have to plug something up?
A lot of times my wife thinks that I wish we lived in an igloo with how cold I like the house, but no, I would not recommend putting a ZBox mattress inside of an igloo. You'd have some major major problems with the materials going with the melted snow. It just wouldn't, the moisture, it wouldn't be good. It just wouldn't be good in an igloo. These are great questions.
People need to know. But they need to have the details before they drop in the coupon code down on their website.
That's right. You know what? You're just doing quality control. That's all you're doing. You're just making sure that the consumers are protected, and that's what we're here to do, is to
absolutely
protect the consumers. So another game week. We're playing on Halloween night this Saturday down in Louisiana, Monroe, or in Monroe, Louisiana, I guess is the proper way to say if we're going to the town. It'll be an interesting trip going on the road way out of state to play a really terrible, awful Warhawks team. Of course, anything can happen. College football, crazier things have happened. We have a special guest, Adam Hunsucker, on the show, beat writer for the Warhawks. We had Adam on last year for the first time, and it was great. We had a lot of fun with him. He does a really good job. And like I mentioned to him, there's a lot of really great beat writers in the Sun Belt. Of course, we're biased. Leading the pack is Ethan Joyce, but between like him, Adam, and then Tim Buckley, and it's Craig Thompson, who does South Alabama. Craig Stevenson. That's right. They do a good job. They do a good job. But we have Adam on. And what I think is cool about this episode, Charles, and I got a nice taste of it. We just recorded with Adam just a little bit ago. We talk a lot about how Louisiana Monroe got to where they are in terms of being at the bottom of the barrel in performance, in results on the field or court or whatever, and in the budget, in the budget column. Because I've said this a lot on Black Gold Podcast. You can, if you didn't look at the name of the institution and you just looked at the size of the budget, you could say, okay, that's a P5, and then you could identify all right, that's an AAC school, that's an American Athletic Conference school. And then you could say, all right, that's a G5 of some sort. But really, Monroe, you really couldn't do that. They have an FCS, like a mid to lower tier FCS budget, and competing in the FBS. So we got a really nice background, deep dive into that. And Charles, I thought it was really educational.
Well, if you go to usatoday.com, they always put out those college athletic budgets of all the schools, and you can sort it by conference and all that good stuff. And you'll see that Monroe's budget is right there with UT Arlington and Arkansas Little Rock, two programs in the Sun Belt who do not play football. And
Yeah.
that's not a good company to keep
No.
because they're trying to do all of that and football, and that's very tough. And what they've been through this year with Corona, they've lost. They lose those P5 games. They lose athletic funds. They lose all those payouts, and they're stuck with this. And then everything else you have to deal with. I mean, that's the reason why they're 0-6, and you can almost kind of see this coming for a program like that. I hate to say that, but it's just kind of what it is.
Yeah, that's true. And so we do get into that because I think it's on one hand, you see, oh, well, Louisiana, they're terrible. It's a terrible team. We beat them every year or whatever. And they're bad at everything. I mean, it's easy to say that, but I like knowing the why behind stuff. Like, why are they like? How did they get to that position? Why are they like this? Why are they a perennial, kind of basement dweller in these sports, especially football is king. And Adam kind of gives us a little history. Like, Louisiana Monroe, they won the FCS title at the time. It was 1AA title in 1987. And they had several pro quarterbacks come through that program. And, there's even an Office reference in this episode with a Michael Scott reference being thrown in there. So you can't miss it. It's at the end of the show. But yeah, we got another week of football, another game week. And we're going to read primarily from our Facebook group, the 333 Club. If you want to support the podcast and be a member of our private Facebook group, the 333 Club, go to supportbgp.com right now. Go sign up. It's as simple as that. And we have several new members coming in really all the time in football season, but check it out. But we do like to ask the members in there, hey, what are we going to talk about? Here's the satchel thread. And Charles is going to read that. And then we do have some Twitter submissions. And then Danny Stapp is back from the dead. I don't know if somebody else took over his email account or he just he was in a coma. I don't know what Danny's deal was, but Danny Stapp is back sending us the only email that we ever get with the hashtag BGP Mail Satchel. So we're excited about that. But of course, the sponsor for the hashtag BGP Mail Satchel is the one and only Styles Roofing. They are the premium roofing company in the greater Charlotte area. That means you, Huntersville, Ballantyne, Shelby, Gastonia, you know who you are. If you're in the greater Charlotte area, you have roof issues, you got a leaking roof, you got approval through your insurance, or maybe you don't even know if you have approval through your insurance. Styles Roofing can help walk you through that process to find out, hey, would you qualify? Would your insurance pay for it? A lot of times insurance companies, they don't want worse problems to happen. So if they could pay $10,000 to prevent a $50,000 problem, maybe they'd like to do that instead. And also, here's the other thing and I say this each and every week, and it's true, with Styles Roofing, you're not going to pay half up front. You're not going to pay the full amount up front. You're going to pay $0 up front. They're going to do the work. They're going to do the labor. They're going to pay for the materials and everything. And you're only going to pay when the job is done and you're satisfied. That sets them apart. And they have a tremendous track record of success doing that. And BGP listeners love Styles Roofing. He's already worked on a couple of projects for BGP listeners, so it's pretty great. So you're going to want to call or text Billy Styles, App State grad, I think class of 2009, if I'm not misremembering, 704-842-1874. I'm going to say it again, 704-842-1874. You can go to stylesroofing.com as well. Check it out. Or email billy@stylesroof.com. Charles, I know you got the satchel open on the Facebooks. What are we dealing with this week? Let's dive right in.
Well, the first thing we got to deal with is Stephen Gwaltney, and that's always a problem. Anyone's involved having a conversation with Stephen Gwaltney, they're probably losing the argument. Nonetheless, he says, "Go Dodgers!" I know it's Game 6 of the World Series tonight. Dodgers with a 3-2 lead in the overall series, and I haven't checked the score. AJ, you have a score update for us? The last I saw was 1-0. That Randy dude keeps hitting bombs. Hit another one for the Rays. Sure,
Yeah,
Adam Whitman's watching.
It's still 1-0, bottom of the fourth. Still
how about
1-0.
that? We haven't missed a thing. So For you, Steven, go Dodgers. That really hurts me to say that. Painful. I like how Stephen Pennell here plays off this. And he said he was pulling for Wake Forest over Syracuse. That's really well done. So, Tim Randall thinks it's December already. Bold dates. That's just a statement. I saw some rumors that some of these bowls are in doubt. There's a few that have already been canceled. Who knows who gets in where? Dates right now? Who knows? I think the bigger question right now, probably AJ, is who gets to go to games that are being played. There's a good opportunity that you're going to have. You may have 7-5, 8-4 team get left home because a bowl committee doesn't want to play a game and they don't because of the safeness. And we obviously cannot make any type of prediction on something like that may occur in late December at this point.
Yeah, I happen to be almost fluent in Tim Randall, and I know what
that's a hard thing to do.
It is a hard thing to do. No, I understand I understand obviously what he's saying, but I mean, you nailed it, Charles. Who knows? I mean, the conference moved the championship game back to a date which is usually an extremely heavy bowl weekend. Right. So what does that mean? So does that mean you get your two best conference teams missing out on bowls that are going to be played that weekend by lesser conference? To me, it's a mess. And a lot of people that are opposed to how many bowl games there are currently might get their wish and see a severe shortage of bowl games, and not only a lack of bowl games, but maybe bowl games full of players that are opting out, even more so. So it might not only be a shortage of bowls and thus, more exclusive. The games might be sloppy still because players opt out. The star players might opt out, even especially this year. That's already been kind of a trend. But there's no way to know. I really do. I kind of go back to what Doug Gillen says about this, and I think this probably applies in the world of sports, especially college football right now, which is it is a day-by-day thing. And I think every day a bowl committee chair just bowl committee in general, they wake up going, well, what's going to happen? So
maybe.
Maybe.
I thought it was wild that Army accepted a bid at the Independence Bowl already, or what thing was the Independence Bowl? Yeah. That's crazy to me that they're going to go ahead and say, hey, we're playing this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Steve Crute wants to know in the chat, I'm seeing this right here in the chat, he wants to know who's the sponsor for the BGP golf tournament in 2021. That'd be great if there was a 333 club or BGP golf tournament. That'd be cool, but it's a great idea. And one day that will happen. I have commitment issues with things like this. So let's
get a long way off right now.
Let's get some new T-shirts printed before we have a golf tournament.
There you go. Jason Hutchins asks, is Nick Cardwell wearing that pumpkin patch burgundy for motivation this week? If anybody noticed, you got the story on this, AJ.
Yeah. So noticed it was either his lovely wife or maybe it was Coach Cardwell himself. Here's the plight of all men everywhere that have weekday football games for their school. That means Saturday's open in the fall. And when the Saturday's open, that means you are susceptible to being roped into a pumpkin patch visit or an apple orchard visit or a fall photo shoot. And not even a football coach, Charles, not even a football coach can escape the jaws of the pumpkin patch color coordinated photo shoot. So I think it was his wife, posted a nice picture of the kids' clothes and the mom and dad's clothes, all neatly pressed, laid on the bed, color coordinated. It's actually a very good job. She did a very good job. She's very stylish. But yeah, so Coach Cardwell was looking his cutest on Saturday, probably with some family photo shoots. So we commend and celebrate the fact that Coach Cardwell, even though he's a Division I FBS offensive line coach, he took one for the team, and he went on a fall photo shoot in the middle of the season. So congratulations, Coach.
I'm thankful that I have somehow missed that with even all of our bye weeks. I've gotten incredibly lucky in that situation. Mike Clifton. Right. Do you think the secondary is living up to the preseason hype? They looked good against a couple solid wide receivers, but did have a couple mistakes or hiccups. And then he continues. And any thoughts on defensive speed? In my opinion, they looked much better. I'm assuming he's talking about App. Whether speed, angles, or just a better understanding of the scheme, I was pleasantly surprised, especially with the linebacker getting 2 picks downfield. I'm actually going to disagree slightly here, Mike, on how our secondary played. I think the big key for how they played is that they didn't allow any touchdown passes to a team that thrives in that scenario of throwing touchdown passes. So there was a couple downfield plays that they got away with, but they didn't burn us. And I think burning us is the key here. And so we avoided having anything that, once they got closer to 30-yard line, 20-yard line, looking to score, we shut it down pretty good. I'll give up yards all day in the 20s as long as the red zone defense is good.
Yeah, so the original question, have the corners or the secondary lived up to the hype? I have to say yes. They've exceeded my expectations. Yes. And I don't usually say, I'm pretty like, oh, come on. I mean, we just got to take it as it comes and, whatever. Don't get too crazy. But I'm gonna say this. I think Shemar Jean-Charles might be having the best season I've ever seen an App corner have. And I might just I'm going to knock on wood real quick. Okay. I don't want to jinx him. But in terms of passes defended and getting his hand in front of a receiver and really not, I mean, he's maybe had a couple of PIs called on him, but playing great physical coverage. He tackles well, he covers well, and he gets his hand, in the middle of the pass. He saved a lot of big yardage plays this year already. He played really well, even against Marshall, just did really, really well in Arkansas State. Sean Jolly's played really great too. I mean, and I think we talked about this in the post game. When you run into like really big, really tall, athletic wideouts, there's mismatches are a thing, or matchups are a thing. You can't win them all. I mean, so Sean Jolly had, he was guarding some really great players, and but at the same time, to your point, Charles, we're a bend but don't break. We don't want points on the scoreboard. They can eat up some yards if they want, but at the end of the day, when the field shrinks and they're in the red zone, and I've felt this way for the last several years. I don't get that nervous in the red zone anymore. I feel like when I say anymore, I really don't get nervous in the red zone because I feel like we are better on a shrunken field and we can hold them to a field goal. And we've proven that time and time again for the last half a decade. Give us less field to work with, and I think we're way better. That isn't to say I necessarily like seeing us play defense at the red zone, but I think, like I said, and maybe that sounds crazy, but I think Shemar's having probably the greatest season I've ever witnessed of an App corner in terms of just getting in the middle, being around the ball. He's like, how everybody talked about like Clifton Duck, he was around the ball. Like he was always around the ball, making a play on the ball. And right. It's no secret, Clifton Duck's a short, small guy, small stature. That's not a slight, just kind of is what it is. I feel like Shemar has that same instinct, but he's longer, and that benefits him in a significant way. But yeah, I think for sure they've exceeded expectations.
I mean, Shemar's got long arms. I mean, that's just the big key to him. And just to hit the last little statement here about the linebacker getting 2 picks. There's a reason the linebacker is getting 2 picks is because he's been given the opportunity to, because Arkansas State didn't think they could win that close, for a tight end to get down the field. Great play in the end zone on that one. Overcame a couple different passive interference. I'm okay in college with some DPIs because it's not such a big play. It's only 15 yards. You live to play another day versus giving stuff up. I'd rather a guy get held, tackled, whatever. Stop the big play, and I think it's key. So I'm good with it.
We have somebody in the 333 Club chat here that says no question, but I'm pumped to see the return of FTC. Go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and hit the approve button so I can see who that is. I can't see who it is here in my dashboard. So anybody in the 333 Club, follow that link that's scrolling at the bottom of the video and do that so I can see the names in the feed. Charles can probably see it, but I can't. So little side note. All right, what's next? That's a great question though, Mike.
Yeah, I think it was. Moving on from Mike Clifton to Michael Burt. What signs of improvement have you seen in their offense after the Marshall game? Does the Arkansas State game indicate improvement, or was that more of a sign of A-State's porous defense?
Porous defense.
Yeah, their defense was bad, and we knew that going in, and that we knew that they were basically going to be in a worse position because they hadn't had they had fired the coaches and all that prior to the game. But who's to say that we didn't need that kind of game either? But I will say this, that since Marshall, Sean Clark challenged wide receivers to make plays. That had to happen on Thursday night because a few of us knew, we all know now, Thomas Hennigan was not at 100%. He could not do it every play. They had to do it, and they did. Getting downfield, scoring touchdowns, all that good stuff, and making plays. I think it's changed. I mean, if anything, we did have a shutdown, and we weren't supposed to practice and all that good stuff as a team. But, at the same time, we went out there and we improved from the last time we saw ourselves. And I think that's key. Even without, the Campbell game when we had lots of players not playing, they didn't play on Thursday night either. So it's carried over. They see that level go up by Deshaun Davis, who says, I want to get on the field. Well, Christian Wells says, well, I don't want Deshaun to take my snaps. I've got to do it. And so I think that's what happened there. They knew that they wanted to continue to play, and they wanted to get their reps and earn their playing time, that they had to go out there and produce on the field.
Yeah. And that, I'm sorry, I keep saying this season, and I'm not sorry. That's why I'm pumped that Coach Clark is at the helm, because he very tastefully, like a good leader should, he held his team accountable, and challenged his players to make plays. And we've seen, like, night and day, these newcomers come up there and do that. And another thing with Zach, and it's so funny. Zach will go through like a series. Zach Thomas will go through a series where it's like, what in the world? Like, what was that throw? Like, what's happening here? And then he'll go have a masterful few series. And one thing that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe the numbers show different, but it seems like we're not doing as many designed runs with Zach this year. But man, when we unleash him with his legs, and the defense has to account for that, I feel like it opens him up so much more, and he becomes a much better version of himself. So that was great to see him score that long touchdown and just have freaking wheels on Thursday night. But honestly, like, in terms of what offense is showing me or whatever, we kind of like a broken record here, but just run the friggin' ball. Daetrick Harrington and
right.
our guy.
Have we been this deep at running back before? I mean, is that the possibility? That might be why Zach's not running as much.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And also, I don't think, and I was telling this to Brad Manning on Thursday. Zach has had 3 quarterbacks coaches in 3 years as a starter. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? Who knows? Like, maybe Coach Peterson's like, you're good enough to do this. We'd rather preserve you. Maybe Coach, who knows? I don't know. But I mean, props to Zach for maintaining his competitiveness and his effectiveness, even going through drafts. I mean, look, Frank Ponce is probably as different from Coach Trinquist as you can get. And then Coach Peterson, it just seems like those guys are like the triangle group. Like, they're all
but they're not in the same group. They're so far from each other.
Yeah. Personality wise,
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, your point about being deep at running backs is well taken. But it's sometimes when he lets loose and, like, maybe on a bootleg or whatever, when they give him the ball, sometimes it's like watching the Energizer buddy just charge up, it's like he takes his game to another level. He just gets pumped up off of that, but whatever. But yeah, still nothing really surprised me. Just, I see we're improving running the ball. It's great. It's great to see.
Jay Neal, I didn't get to see this submission until just moments ago. So I smiled when I was pre-reading this. That's why. You'll understand it if you've been in 333 Club long enough, and hopefully everyone will one day understand this joke. But he asked, ULM and Texas State are potential boat races. Do you think we might get to see some more opportunities for younger players if we're motorboating, either or both? This is this is just great all around. But no, I thought about this, Jay, when, coming off the pause of practice and games, that, if we're going to warm up to some teams, these are probably the best 3 teams to warm up to, and kind of get your wind back in your sails, so to speak, and play some teams that you have that opportunity to, whether it be play younger players or just get your rhythm down, which I think is the biggest key. So, but you never know what's going to happen in some of these games. We've seen ULM be a problem before. We saw Texas State be a problem once. Both these games are on the road. Both of those funky games happen on the road. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here once again, but I would love to see the younger players play, but also want to see the starters play a long time. And I think that was key. You didn't see Jacob Huseman until like the last series last week. So even if you're just handing the ball off, those are reps that you need.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I think I said this in the Arkansas State postgame maybe, but I do feel like on offense we're experiencing a similar parallel. And I might sneeze here in a second.
What's funny? So AJ's got the sniffles from something, and he's having to deal with it. As soon as we hit live, I was like, "Why is my nose running a little bit?" Like if you see me do this a couple of times, I'm trying to stave it off, and it's like, is this contagious through the internet? So
maybe. Oh wow, the coronavirus. Everybody has to get off Twitter because the coronavirus is coming through. No, it feels like we have this parallel experience going on. Like the second half of 2014, we saw a lot more of Eric Boggs, a lot more of Devin Stringer, and a lot of players that became household names soon thereafter, and it really changed our team. Look at the two Christians, Horn and Wells at wide receiver, Nate Noel at running back, and Deshaun Davis. It just feels like there's that competition. I know I've already said this before, but it just, it feels like there could be opportunities for the competition among the team. We talk about competition among the league a lot, but, competition within the roster, if we're fighting competitions within ourselves of excellence, then that's great. I mean, that's great for everybody. But yeah, no, I mean, we almost got snake bit by Texas State. They're pretty close. Texas State's funny. Texas State's like the opposite of ULM in that they're really well funded, but they're terrible.
Right. They really are. I think when people ask questions around younger players getting playing time, I think the question really kind of gets centered around the offensive players. But these defensive players are getting PT, even when the game's on the line. And I think it's really, really important for those guys to really come along. Jalen McLeod and others, even Brandon Harrington, first-year starter, we assume he's great. He's not great yet. He's good. He's going to get better. But they all need these opportunities. Tim Frizzell, I felt like was all over the field when he had the opportunity on Thursday. So we're coming together, and just don't think that the focus is on the big names because they have the ball in their hands and they score touchdowns. But these other guys are getting their opportunities too, and I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
We will move on to Tim Randall, who's looking for a 1,000-yard rusher, saying everybody's going to have to go off for 200. We're going to have those opportunities. We had one last week. We're going to have those opportunities the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Tim Randall's getting greedy. He wants to keep the stat train alive. And fingers crossed we get to play our games that are scheduled from here on out.
That's right.
Taylor Smith, we're done with you. Alex is done with you, Tim Randall. We're going to, if you have another one, I've already see another question or comment from Tim Randall. Taylor Smith, if we heard the third best team in the state, according to Lafayette, how low would the University of Lots of L's rank? That's an interesting question. I guess we're focusing on Louisiana football, not specifically the school, but state. You'll hear a little bit from Adam Hunsucker about his thoughts on Louisiana Tech. Tulane is obviously out there. Louisiana State is out there, not looking as good as they usually have been. I do believe that Lafayette had a really good win at UAB. I was kind of uncertain with how good they were, but I think that was a solid showing. I don't really know. I guess they're going to be second or third in the state of Louisiana. I would imagine. Is that kind of?
No.
They lost to Tulane in the bowl game a couple years ago. I don't know if they had arrived yet, but certainly LSU is still better than them.
Oh yeah, for sure. This came about because the brand new, I guess, Barstool Cajuns account had posted something.
That's right. I forgot.
App being the third best football team in the state or something. And, first of all, if it took the Cajuns this long to get a Barstool account, then we shouldn't have even got that upset. I mean, am I wrong? You know what I'm saying?
I didn't
like
get upset. I thought it was silly. I was like, this is pretty weak.
I hate doing this. I'm kind of speaking for the collective here, and I should never do that because the internet's a wild place. I should never speak for large swaths of internet people. But a lot of App fans got, I posted something mockingly like with the 8 L's, like, I get every chance I get. I try to do that to just poke the bear a little bit.
Oh yeah,
man, there are a lot of App fans that just really took that to heart. That and frankly, like I want to say. Or, I'll make the claim that I feel like me and you, Charles, speaking for us here, that we can appreciate good trash talk. If it's a good dunk on App, then we may not like it, but we'll say that's kind of funny. Like, all things being equal, it's kind of funny. They weren't even funny. Like, it wasn't even really that funny. Wasn't even that clever. That it just wasn't. Like, it wasn't creative. Like, there's a way to make fun of anybody. There's a way to make fun of any program. There's a way to make fun of App. There's a way to do it, and it's funny. Even the alumni or the fans will be like, okay, that's kind of funny. But this wasn't funny. And so that's why we're asking, we're asking this question, is because a lot of people got bent out of shape. But again, that's a school that just now are getting a Barstool account. Like, I don't know, can't take them that seriously. But Louisiana, I think they're a good team. You talk to any former player that has played, Louisiana either in that first championship game or played them both in the first 2 championship games, they'll tell you that Louisiana might have been. I've heard guys say that Louisiana was the best team we played last year. I mean, we played 2 P5 teams. They say, hey, that's the best team we played last year, period. So they're a really good team. I've always maintained that Coach Napier is, a great coach. I'm shocked that he didn't get hired away. But anyway, what are they ranking Louisiana? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. And I got to be, who asked this? Taylor Smith? No disrespect to Taylor. I don't think I care that much to even like, I don't care. Like, whatever. Louisiana to me, like, it really is getting to that point where it is fun to banter back and forth with them. But it's almost like they are counting their success elsewhere as like points to be able to talk to us. And to me, I'm like, hey, you beat us, you can talk that much trash. But you know what I'm saying, Charles? Like, it to me.
I find it interesting that they're bringing North Carolina and NC State into the play here. When when NC State has had zero interest in playing us since they saw one Armani Edwards, and obviously North Carolina is not as happy with us as they'd like to be either.
Right.
That's neither here nor there, but it is what it is. We'll get our chance to prove it on the field, hopefully. Hopefully once this year. If we have to do it twice, we'll do it twice.
Yeah.
PA Tennessee. With the emergence of young talent in the wide receiver core with Wells and Davis, do you see them pushing Williams and Virgil for more playing time in the rotation going forward, assuming everybody is healthy? Obviously, Hennigan is number one, clearly, when he is healthy.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of
Virgil, yeah. I don't think Malik's coming off the field.
Yeah, but are they competing for his receptions a little bit? Yeah. Sure. They are. If you're on the field, you're competing for something. You're trying to get open.
Pushing, yes. And I hope those young guys are pushing. That's the whole
Why
purpose.
Would they?
Yeah.
That's what we want.
But don't take this too far and assume that like replacement, like take time. Right. Pushing and taking time away are completely separate. And I think pushing obviously is good because if you have freshmen who are better than seniors or vice versa, you want them to be doing that 100%.
Yep. No, I agree.
Bill Watterson, what are ULM's strengths? If you were coaching at ULM, what would your game plan be against App? Man, that's a great question. I hadn't even thought about that. We're going to talk a lot with Adam about like what is and what isn't right with ULM. Their strength is, I would say, their defense.
Yeah, they
just don't have the opportunity to showcase it.
Yeah. Adam talks about that too.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit. And then if I was ULM, I had to play App. I guess the game plan would be this sounds terrible, but you got to put your people on the island and say, well, there's one way to stop App, and that's to make sure Zach Thomas doesn't have time in the pocket. Follow that game plan you've seen from the couple teams that have beat us. That's going to be difficult because somebody's going to find a way, but you got to take your chances and send an extra guy. And when App gets in those passing opportunities and limit, their drives and limit those third downs. ULM's okay against the run. They're not great, but they've also played a bunch of teams that have done nothing but run against them late, and that gets tiresome. A team with a lot of time possession deficit because their defense is on the field so much, and I think that's kind of like where a bunch of those stats kind of get skewed a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think Marshall played us perfectly. I think there's evidence to that because they won the game. But I think we've made changes since then. So what I would do, everyone tries to do it. They try to take away the run. But now that you see that our wideouts are getting better and we got a ton of speed out there. And I think Coach Clark even mentioned that a little bit tonight. Just got a lot of speed. Just got a lot of speed on the roster. A lot of these young guys, fresh legs with a lot of excitement. I'm glad I don't have to coach against App. Can I say that? That's what I'm going to answer. I'm glad we don't have to coach.
I would agree. App. Tim Randall, hopefully with his last comment of the night, says run out the clock. I think that's fair. It's a fair statement.
It's a good point.
Joe Sullivan, good teams win, great teams cover. Think we can get the 31.5 points. Last I saw it against ULM. It is a lot. And it's funny because coming into last week, we were 0-3 against the spread. A couple of those were well lined, I guess you could say. A couple points off here and there. We obviously covered against Arkansas State, a line that was 11.5 going into the game. Thursday popped up, I think, to as many as 13.5, 14. 31.5 is a lot, but for a team that has scored 81 points all season in 6 games, you wonder how does ULM cover 31.5, and they're going to have to score points. I don't see if they have, I don't see this team who can't score more than 6 on, what was it, UTSA or UTEP? I can't remember which one it is. I think it's UTEP. And have trouble against South Alabama with 14. I don't see them getting up to 20, and I think that's the only way they do that. It's going to be hard to keep us from scoring in the high 40s and 50s.
Yeah, so I off the cuff, I'd say no. The reason I would say no is because I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to galaxy brain it for a second, okay? Let's say ULM does have a pretty good defense, and they, punt the ball a couple times or whatever, have some possessions where we're not doing so hot or whatever, just have a handful. I think obviously we're going to win, but also I think we run the ball a whole lot, and I think Coach Clark, knowing that we do have a full slate of games coming up in the conference, I think he might. And Coach Clark is way more cerebral and mental than I think people give him credit for. He just might pull a card out of the old Satterfield book of tricks. Not that it's unique to Scott Satterfield, but he might say, you know what? These guys aren't doing a really good job scoring against us. I'll put the playbook away and we'll just keep running.
Yeah.
And so we'll eat the clock out. I just could see, like,
get up early, fold it down. Yeah.
I feel like I'm totally jinxing ourselves here. And I know that's not a real thing, but I still kind of feel weird about it. But if you're telling me that we're going to compete to cover the spread, that means we're winning in a big way. So that's what that means. But I could see us saying, all right, well, we're just going to eat up a whole bunch of clock because they can't stop us running. And why would we do anything? Why would we show anybody else on film what we do in certain situations, like on a 3rd and 7, in their territory? Like, why would I show them what I would really do in a close game? Just whatever,
This is probably an overreaction line correction from last week. You've got a game that was supposed to be a 2-touchdown game that ended up being 4 touchdowns. And so they pop it up. Obviously, you're playing a team that lesser than Arkansas State. And they just assume that, hey, tack a field goal on, and that should be probably safe. I would imagine this one comes down a little bit, but we'll see.
Right.
I'm into that. AJ isn't as much. I like talking about lines, but
I think it's great. Diversity here on the podcast. Yeah.
Stephen Taparak, is Harrington going to be the feature back getting a majority of the run back snaps moving forward, or do you think they'll stay balanced? I guess this question all comes down to I guess as far as splitting carries, AJ, I guess this question really comes down to what do these games look like? We've mentioned that we may have 3 games in a row, if you want to include, that might be a little bit easier, and so are you gonna, if you plan on having Deja Harris get the majority of the snaps, majority of the carries, are you going to give them the ball 25 times? Is somebody else going to get a chance? Without looking, AJ, do you remember how many times did Harrington carry the ball on Thursday?
18. He carried it 18.
Right, exactly. 18 times.
Yeah.
That's for a team that runs as much as we do, that's really not a lot. It's not like a big run target share, I guess you could say.
Nope.
So I think he is the guy that will remain to be RB1, get the majority of the carries, get more than everybody else. But we're still going to give guys their time, a couple carries here and there. Noel's going to get some time. Anderson Castle will get mop up, and Cam Peoples he's going to have to break out eventually. And I believe that once he gets that opportunity, you may see more of him, and maybe this weekend. Who knows? We'll see.
So let me ask you this. Let's say that you're pretty successful. Let's say you're a pretty successful team. You're in competition for, let's say you're in the Sun Belt, for example. Doing pretty well. You're in contention for winning your division to play for a conference championship. You're not that deep at running back. You have a great running back that is really a game changer. You got a pretty good offensive line, and you feed him 25 to 30, maybe even 35 times a game. He's just that good. Now, are you doing that? Are you giving that back so many reps because, oh man, I just like doing it, or it's because you don't have any other options? So
yeah,
I think
that's a great question.
With App State, I think App State does what teams would do if they had a lot of options. They would spread the wealth a little bit, not just because, oh shucks, I like this guy. I think they do it because I think it's a luxury. I think it's a luxury. It's a luxury to be able to give your A1 running back some reps off and not really miss that much of a beat.
Right.
And then how about this? Not only that, I mean, that's within itself. Anybody can do that. Just give their guy a night off, or not a night off, just a possession off or whatever. But then you hand it off to a guy that is extremely talented, that can, like Marcus Williams Jr., he's had trouble holding on to the ball. We hate it for him. Not really calling him out, but I mean, he was one securely held ball away from a huge gain, maybe a touchdown on Thursday night. I mean, hello, you have options. Why would you give your clear-cut guy that you trust with the ball, why would you give it to him more than you really had to when you have other options? I mean, football's a violent sport. We talked, forever ago with Sims McElfresh, like 5 years ago, about he said, Sat started giving us more time off to rest our bodies or whatever. You don't do that and then give your guy a bunch of reps unless you had to win and you had to give him that reps. Right. So I think he's the number one guy to get us to where we need to be. And we will spread around to increase the shelf life of everybody, help them out.
I would just say Joey Sullivan agrees with that and says, keep it balanced to keep them fresh. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, agree with that.
And I guess Stephen Tapperat continues to go to tag on. It's like, we had all 3 running backs fumble again. Do you think this will continue to be an issue? And I think Cam lost one. Marcus did too. Tonight on Mountaineer Talks, Sean mentioned again, holding the program in your hands. Don't do it. And you address turnover ratio or margin. And that's obviously a concern. And it's not something that we're used to doing. And, I mean, we went a long time without having any running back fumbles at all, and then when they came, they were rare. And you're like, oh, man. But now it's definitely become a little bit too commonplace for me.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, I think Steven's name is pronounced Taparic. And I think
I apologize.
It's okay. No, it's all right. I think I got it right the first time, and he commented and said nobody ever says my name right, so thank you. But I think it's Taparic.
He'll butcher it tonight.
Yeah, I think it's Taparic. I'm pretty sure. Now he can correct us, if I'm wrong. Yeah. So what's funny? Who was telling me this the other day? Not the other day. It was after the Charlotte game when we, Marcus fumbled and I think Cam even fumbled. Well, anyway, we had some turnovers. Wasn't good. Someone had mentioned to me that the Patriots, coached by Bill Belichick, who's I don't know if there's much of a debate. Probably the greatest football coach ever. They work on boring stuff in their practices, like protecting the ball and drills, like just mundane drills, but they do those things over and over and over and over again. And it is weird. Now, I'm not making an analysis. Maybe Coach Haynes is doing more of that this year than we've ever done it, and we just don't know because we're not there. But it is interesting because we go from Darrington never putting the ball on the ground, ever. I mean, he got hit a lot. He got hit a lot. He was in the backfield a lot. He's getting hit by linebackers too. Never put the ball on the ground. We go from Jalen Moore, who I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember a time Jalen Moore put the ball on the ground. It must have been that rare, to now where it's kind of like, hey, whoa, what are we doing? So,
right.
So maybe, is it a change in getting back to just reps and, hey, do a couple of, run a couple of stadiums if you're not doing it right. I don't know, but I will acknowledge that it is strange to go from never putting the ball on the ground. Steve Brown always said that, what was it? John Settle never fumbled, not once at App State. I think that was the stat that, John Settle never fumbled at App State,
Mm-hmm.
but it's weird to go from that reputation and even just kind of like the zombie, kind of like as fans just kind of watching it, just never seeing, one of our guys, running backs fumble to that's kind of been like a thorn in the side a little bit. So I don't know what the solution is. I know they hate it. Like, I know that no one's sitting around going like, oh, we don't care. This is fine.
Right.
but it is strange to see. I will admit it is strange to see.
Steve Brooks, do you all think that having to move the 2 games to the end of the schedule could be a positive for this team to build momentum and chemistry? I absolutely. I would have hate to have just pushed all the games down the line. I would not have been very high on that, and I'm glad that has worked out for us a little bit. And it couldn't have been a better situation as it stands right now.
Let's all be honest for a second. We all, with this whole COVID thing, look, a lot of our guys have had it. Thank God they've all, been fine. Thank God, this is all great that we came out with good health from this, as far as we know. But now we got it. So there's, so we got it now. So we got it. Hey, we had it. And so now it kind of opens up probably less complications in that way for later in the season. So, and that's kind of something that a lot of people talked about. Like, what happens if a team really gets it? Maybe they forfeit a game, or who knows? But after they kind of get over, they're over, right? Or it's an interesting situation. But I don't think you could have fit this better in App's favor than for us to have not only come off of a really bad Marshall loss where we didn't play well, where we needed to get our guys, our heads out of our butts a little bit and play better, to then get bit by the COVID bug a little bit. They get 2 games that weren't canceled but moved back. I mean, if it were up to me or you, I think that's exactly what we would have preferred.
Right.
Don't cancel them. Let's just tack them on. So I think that's great. I think it works out in our favor for sure.
We certainly hope it does. Greg Peterson, is ULM the worst team in the Sun Belt this year? And if you guys think so, here's a good question. Why do I feel so nervous for every game App plays? Think it's COVID reasons or the expectations being so high after last year? I'll tell you what. I'm going to tackle the second part of this first, and I think the first part of it's pretty obvious. I do the same thing, Greg. I don't know what it is. There are certain games and teams where I will just be nervous, and for me, it's nothing to do with COVID. It's nothing to do with 13-1 last year. It's all depends on what we're doing, in a certain season at that moment.
Yeah.
What is going to be that one game that, in a conference championship run, that gives us a hiccup and makes us think twice about what we're doing? Monroe, 2017. I'm not saying I was nervous then, but we had no business losing that game.
Yep.
Idaho, there's going to be one. You can say Louisiana last year. That game should not have been like that. Texas State, we've seen almost one every year. I mean, really, when we haven't had a Sun Belt season where we call 8-0 yet. So now I get that way. But it's funny to me, I don't get nervous around, last week, I wasn't nervous. Somebody asked me, how you feeling about the game? I was like, good. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, we're going to win tonight. I just know it. But there's something about these other teams like a Monroe or Texas State where everyone realizes they're 0-6 or they're 1-5 or they're not having a good season. It's like, how do you get up for that? How does the team get up for that? How do they find their motivation to play and play well when they know they can roll out of bed and beat these guys?
I'm going to say something that is going to sound crazy, but the numbers bear it out. We've had a harder time with ULM than Lafayette.
Mm-hmm.
Story. Period. End of story. You can begin and end with the fact that they beat us.
Mm-hmm.
You can begin and end with that. They've beat us. Louisiana's never beaten us. But it took a game-winning field goal to beat them in 2014. We've played more close games with them than we have with Lafayette or Coastal or Texas
down the
State.
list. Right.
Texas State. I mean, yeah, but they seriously now this year might be a bridge too far. They might be that bad, and we might be that good or whatever. But ultimately, I'm with you, Charles. Sometimes you get like that dog in the corner that it's got nowhere else to go but to bite you.
Right.
So, and I think it's rooted in. Maybe it's not for you. It is for me. I think it's rooted in that first 2014 game when it took us down to the wire, and we had a game on a field goal. It's like, because that's your first run through the gamut of those schools. You're like, hold on a second, hold on a second. That was kind of a tough one. And then just a couple years later, going down there and then beating us. And I think that's always kind of left, no matter how we know they're bad. And to answer Greg's question straight up, yes, they're the worst team in the Sun Belt. Does that mean that I'm going to sit back on Saturday and go, don't even need to watch this one, boys? We're no.
Good Lord. It's not like that's happening. It's not like you're like, maybe I can go to the pumpkin patch and catch part of it on the radio. Like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah,
I'll be pacing. That's for sure.
And that sounds silly, maybe, but it just is what it is. It's the fan in us. Like we can't help but we've experienced what we've experienced. But we've played more nail biters. Period. End of story. We've played more nail biters with Monroe than most of our opponents and stuff. More than Georgia State, more than Coastal Carolina, more than Texas State. I know Texas State, we had one really close game with them. But Louisiana Monroe's given us more trouble historically than virtually everybody in the Sun Belt outside of like maybe with Georgia Southern, Arkansas State, maybe.
That's about it.
Yeah. I mean, truly. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing. So on paper, this game isn't going to be close. In my heart, I'm going to watch every snap until the game's over.
Right.
There you go.
Brian Barbary, this is good for you, AJ. What is your favorite or best memory of watching the opposing team while sitting on the east side? So I'll never forget this, and I'll be real quick because I have one that qualifies with that statement. Arkansas State's kicker was massaging his leg, hamstring, all that good stuff while down 4 touchdowns. And I was like, I just thought to myself, I don't know if it's a media timeout or whatever. I looked at that guy and I was like, buddy, you ain't kicking a field goal today. The longest kick you have for the rest of the night will be a 20-yard extra point, if that happens. So that's my best memory. Someone, a guy just back there by himself, taking the little massage gun, and warm on a night where I was wearing shorts. It wasn't cold.
What did you notice that? Was it number 0, the really really small guy? Was it him?
Yeah.
Folks, I'm going to tell you this, and I wasn't making fun of him because when I was younger, maybe I was more apt to make fun of like physical characteristics, like someone being too short or whatever on the sidelines. But I felt like immense amount of respect for him. I mean, this guy probably, folks, I cannot tell a lie. This guy was every bit maybe 5'5", maybe weighed 130 pounds, lean obviously, but I mean just a small guy. He looked exactly like PETA from the Hunger Games. For those of you that have watched the Hunger Games, it looked like who their kicker was PETA from the Hunger Games. So I have 2 stories that I hope many people will find entertainment in. I'll start with my second favorite in terms of just experiencing sideline shenanigans. Miami game obviously wasn't A great memory scoreboard wise. But Murphy Post, who I've referenced on this show many times, the greatest stadium trash talker that I've ever been around, sits with us. We were sitting 4 rows dead center on the 50, right behind the Miami bench for that game. And their safeties were right in front of us. Their starting safeties were sitting right in front of us. Really athletic guys, long athletic guys, had long dreadlocks to the back of their jerseys. You could just tell, good athletes, and they were having a good game. And their coach so their backs are to us. They're sitting on those aluminum benches. Their backs are to us, so they're facing their coach, who the coach is facing us. And this coach is probably probably 5'7", little pudgy guy, probably in his mid-30s, short, kind of, hefty. And he is chewing these guys a new one. Like this guy, I mean, he was blah, 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 he's pointing at the clip, blah, 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 and just chewing at these guys. And Murphy, and we're already getting smoked. And Murphy yells down there. I think their numbers were let's say the numbers were on their jersey, 38 and 41. So Murphy goes, "Hey, 38, 41. You don't have to listen to a word coach is saying. He's never seen the field." and they both, here's what made it great. They both turned around and looked at Murphy and laughed. and their coach, I kid you not, I think he was just, I think we looked him up on our phones, like what his name was. He was an Hispanic guy, but this dude turned red with rage and ran behind the aluminum bench and started screaming at Murphy. He said, "Oh, no. Hey, scoreboard, A," and he said "a-hole." I'm not going to say what he said. He said "a-hole." Let's say that. And gigged Murphy, threw him the bird, and these safeties are laughing. They're winning, right? But they're laughing their butts off because Murphy said, "You have to listen. He's never seen the field." And Mark Richt himself, this is what made it so great, came over and turned the safeties coach away. I'll never forget that. That was probably the highlight of the day, to tell you the truth.
That wasn't Nasty, was it?
What do you mean it was not? Who?
Well, that wasn't their safeties coach. It wasn't Nasty, was it? Remember?
No. There's some Unc Nasty. Who are you talking about?
Unc Nasty, or what was his name? Unc Nasty or something like that. The big Miami fan who chirped us.
I forgot about that. The YouTube guy.
Yeah.
YouTube. No, it definitely wasn't him. No. This guy played. We looked him up because Murphy kept yelling at him because he had already looked up the guy's name. He had played like D3 football at some small private college on the California coast.
Right.
Like, come on, he played at St. Mary's School of the Blind or whatever. And you could tell the players, one, thought it was funny. It really got under this guy's skin. Murphy has that way of getting your guys. So number 2 is we're playing Chattanooga in 2013. And Charles, I don't have to remind you, we lost to Chattanooga that day, and it was a dark day because we don't lose it. We lose Chattanooga a whole lot, but they were outplaying us big time. I think we ended up only losing by a touchdown, but they were outplaying us all game.
35-28 game, I believe.
Yeah, it was rough. So anyway, so we're sitting on the lower level, east side, probably 20 rows back on the 40 towards Miller Hill. Okay. So we're looking down.
Paint the picture.
So we're losing. So Murphy's doing his best to try to get under the guy's skin like he does so very well. And I think his number was 28. Dude looked like maybe a little defensive back. He was chirping the whole game. He was going up to different groups and just getting his guys hyped up. He's just kind of, being obnoxious like he should. I mean, he had every right to act like that. But you could just tell he was a little chatterbox on the sideline, but he never played. Like he'd go into the huddle and then come back onto the sideline, right? One of those guys. So it was getting to the second half and we were losing, and there was a sense of desperation there. Like we were really getting ready to lose to Chattanooga. We hadn't lost to them in half a century, but they're getting ready to beat us. And it's when Murphy yells out, he goes, Hey, 28. Hey man, that jersey looks real white. It doesn't look like you sweated all day. Have you even been on the field? And this guy just slowly turns around, looks right up at Murphy and goes, "No."
No, I have not. I have not played today.
He goes, "No." And we just what do you say to that?
He got you.
He goes, "Nope." And so Murphy goes, 28, you're a great teammate. Love how you're cheering your teammates on. It was great. The sheer just responding with criticism with just brute honesty and being okay with it. It was terrific. And they won. And 28 never got on the field. But just that simple little no, that just killed me. It has absolutely killed me. I don't know why that stuck with me, but it was a really funny moment. Yeah, so those are two moments that have really nothing to do with the game. But we've trash talked a lot of players, but those two kind of stand up on mine, just being kind of the funniest.
Very cool story. Love it. Greg Lowe asked a similar question that Steve Brooks did, but we'll read it anyway, even though we discussed it. Could the COVID-19 postponed game with Laffy Taffy and Distinct really be a huge blessing in disguise? If we are healthier in December for those games, the odds of going back to the Sun Belt Championship game go way up. I don't think that if we played those games when scheduled, we win both. Thoughts?
Yeah,
certainly. It'd be, I think it would have been tough to do Louisiana at home midweek, Georgia Southern on the road again. One of those, you hate to say it, but it seems like one of those would have been lost. And then having Arkansas State on the back end off what could be, a desperation kind of a game. And, you play tighter. I'm just glad it's worked out the way it really has. Once we knew that this stuff was kind of going to happen, that was going down, I was like, this isn't the worst thing in the world if all you're thinking about is how our schedule plays out.
Right.
David Pate, with the uncharacteristic turnovers this season, do we think this is COVID, lack of practice related, or something else? How to overcome? We had a pause in August too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was just for a couple of days, I believe. It wasn't like it was an extended period of time. We had one like this as well. Spring practice was cut short as well. We got the majority of it in, but not. I would say that the key would be like the things they do in the summer when it's unorganized team activities and not full out team practices, and not being really allowed to kind of do that kind of stuff. That was really frowned upon. And so if all the running backs go out and do something or whatever, and they're teaching when they can't be taught, and they're not getting those kind of like those small experiences in being away from each other. Is it COVID related? I'd say to an extent. I actually looked at that. By this time of the year, a lot of these teams have played about half their season. We only played our fourth game, and really across the conference, the turnover margin is not like dramatic at this point. We're like bottom half, but not the bottom. And Louisiana, I think, is tops in the conference in like turnover margin per game, and it's only like 0.8. So it's not dramatic at this stage. It'll certainly change as more games are played, but I think it's just kind of like a across the board thing at this point.
Yeah. So let's look at these following three factors. Number one, we have different guys carrying the ball than last year for the most part, carrying the most of the load. Number one. Number two, we have a new running backs coach, and he decides what drills they're running, and he decides like how he coaches that position. That's number two. And you do have COVID. You do have the spring practice cut short. You do have the really weird summer workout schedule, which is weird. And you do have the pauses in summer camp, and you have the 3 weeks off. So you have this pie chart of, explanations. But when as you're sitting there talking about that, Charles, I almost think the Darrington had most of the carries last year, and Darrington is Darrington. Darrington is not Daytrick. He's not Marcus Williams Jr. I don't know Marcus. He had several carries last. He was number 2, I guess, in workload. I don't think he fumbled last year. I'm pretty sure he didn't. So maybe this is unique to him. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe
their new role.
Their new role. Maybe it is. Ultimately, though, I kind of look at Mike Evans. That was a free. Marshall is it was like a 1 in a million play. Like if you have it back, you take it. But at the end of the day, this kind of reminds me of like when we talk about like, hey man, if you're talking about your kickers, then you got bigger problems. If you're talking about like our field goal kicker can't hit a field goal, if like we're relying on field goals, then we got something else we need to talk about. I kind of feel that way with this a little bit. We're winning games. We're 3-1. We're in a great position. So I feel like it is something that needs to be tightened up. Yes, it's bit us in the butt. Yes, it made the Charlotte game harder than it had to be, for sure. Yes, it cost us a ton of momentum in putting ourselves in a better position in the Marshall game, for sure. And, really played almost like zero factor in the Arkansas State game. I don't know if I said this in the post game. I feel like we still didn't play I don't even know if we reached 90% of what we could have done in that game.
We definitely could have played better.
Definitely could have played better. So I think we've been fortunate to have played well in enough games, the Marshall game being the one that it really hasn't impacted us that much. And you're right, Charles, at this point we played 4 games and we're at the end of October. We're going to play our 5th game on Halloween. So by this time we've gone through an out of conference slate heading into conference play in October by our 5th game. We're playing our 2nd conference game. Almost knocking on the door in November. So a lot of factors go into this. I think, David, it's a good question. I just don't know if you can lay it at the feet of COVID. Is it a part of the pie that is determining, that is contributing to these things? I think for sure. I think the answer to that, by the way, hey, is COVID a reason for this? The answer is probably, probably. But it's a good question nonetheless.
Alan Bouvet, random satchel question. What is your most prized piece of App State merchandise in your closet? For instance, I've got a sweatshirt from every bowl game we've been to.
Wow.
Man, I don't have anything that I just look at every day, look at every day and say, man, I really am glad I had that. But I got a lot of pieces, a lot of different things that I really like. I got some, a couple things signed by Jerry Moore. That's cool. The Hail to the Victors print. There's a cardboard kind of a plaque-esque kind of a deal that says Hail to the Victors. I love that. I've got a ticket collection as well. Jerseys, on and on and on. I don't know if I have a favorite. The goalpost from the Furman game, when we tore that down, I think that's really cool. That saves my entertainment stand. I do kind of like to see that every day. But I mean, I don't have one favorite. I got lots of favorites.
I think that's true too. My aunt made me. This was probably 5 years ago. She made me a Tigma sign today. I get my all sign. It's actually the size that's in the locker room. She made, so does it look identical? No, but she made it for me. It was really nice, and I appreciated it. I got Coach Moore to sign that, and that's hanging in my office. And that's really cool. I get to see that every day. I really like seeing it every day. Coach Smith, Kermit, sent me a framed picture of Beaver Field with a handwritten note that I put in my office. I think it's really cool. David Jackson gave me the 2015 commemorative season plaque from that season, his last season. And tell you the truth, that's really high up there. When he gave that to me, I was actually really flattered. I don't even know if David knows how much that. And I was like, I don't know if I want to take this. He's like, I don't want it. So, and I shouldn't downplay it. It was a gift. He wasn't just throwing it away. I mean, that means a lot to me because that was the first year of the podcast. That was our first bowl in, and him giving me that plaque was really, really cool. I tell you one unique thing though. Coach Moore, I had Coach Moore sign for both Charles and I. Hey, it's perks of the job, perks of the pod. When I was getting him signed today, I give my all plaque for the 34-32 day thing. I had him sign a couple other things, and I had this picture printed out that was taken at our Legends lunch that we did in 2017, where we had him, Steve Brown, and David Jackson kind of going over the 10-year anniversary of the Michigan game and just the 2007 season. And I asked him to sign it for me and Charles so I can get it framed. And I asked him, what would you like to write? It's kind of a weird thing. Hey, I want you to write something. I don't want to tell you what to write, but I want you to write it to me, to Alex, my favorite, and Coach Moore right away said, he said, I know what I want to write. And I want to write it to both of you, if that's okay. And so I was like, wow, he's already kind of had the awkward conversation, in his head with me. I don't have to have that. He's like, I have something that I'd like to write to you guys both, if that's okay. And I said, sure. And he's like, do you mind? And I said, no. And he's, do you want to know what I'm going to say? I said, no, I want you to write it. And he was okay. And he wrote, respectively, both. He wrote Charles, and then he wrote, 2 separate pictures, just addressed to me, Charles, said, "What an example of always doing more than expected." And that's really that might be way up there for me. That might be way up.
It is for certain.
Because he was really emphatic about like, hey, I want to sign this. Are you cool with it? And he said, you want to know what it is? I'm like, no, I'd rather not know. Just you do, and just kind of surprise me, in a way. But it meant a lot, and and he was so cool to work with on the whole 34-32 day event where we raised $5,000 for Yosef Club, and he was really helpful. But that was really cool, and I actually have that right over there. I haven't found a final place to hang it quite yet. I don't want to hoard all this stuff in my office, but I really just like looking at it.
Right. You want to see it at the house.
I do, but I'm at the office so often, and I have a little helmet signed by Coach Satterfield. So anyway, that's I like that. It's a little trip down memory lane right there. So that's good. That's good. Good question.
From our favorite weatherman, Crumb, seems the team is really gelling with Coach Clark and the staff. While we are appreciative of Drinks effort last year at 12-1, Coach Clark and the current staff just seem a better fit with our players, fan base, community. I feel secure with Coach Clark in charge. I wasn't fully in the boat with Drink last year. Clark and crew feel like a familiar favorite App State hat or something. Thoughts? And couldn't agree more. Really, he's us. He's he's walked up Stadium Drive a lot. And he did it when he was a student, just like a lot of us did. He's done a lot of the things that we do and we enjoyed when we were in school, outside of walking to class and going to practice and attending parties, whatever it may be, So, yeah, he's us. And that mentality, obviously, it carries through to the team and just the way they approach things. And certainly, like we said, to many people, it's like, look, thanks, Drink. We appreciate it. Cool. But we couldn't be any happier to have Sean Clark to be our coach.
Yeah. Yes. Correct. Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yes. I mean,
Coach, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, Coach Drink, we had some of the best, truly had some of the best memories in our entire App State fandom last year. We really did. So there's some moments last year and experiences that were just like, this is as good as it gets. And this is and it was great. And it was fun. There was and I've talked about this on the pod a lot. I've talked a lot about it, more in personal conversations, but there's a difference between an app employee and an app guy or girl, or gal, or lady. Sorry. There's just a really big difference. You can work at App State and be an App State employee and be contributing and do good work, but you're not an app guy. Right. And I mean this true. I truly mean it with all due respect. Like Drink was not an app guy. He was an app employee, and he went 12-1 as the CEO of the football program, and he did a great job. And he stood up for App State. He fought for App State. Going in there and saying, we expected to win this football game at Carolina. We're not an underdog. And getting out there and saying, we deserve to go to the Cotton Bowl. I mean, he went up there and fought the battles. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying culturally, attitude-wise, there's a difference between app employee and an app guy. And you know it. You just know it when you meet people and you talk to them. You just get it. And Drink did a great job last year, no doubt. But Coach Clark is the dictionary definition of an app guy. He's consistent. He's predictable. And when I say predictable, I mean, he's going to hold you. I think that's part of accountability. If you're going to be somebody that holds people, you have to be predictable.
Predictable can come across sometimes and sound negative. And that's not the way it is in this situation.
No, it's reassuring. And I think that's something as a leader, you have to be predictable. You have to be predictable. Like, if is coach going to do what he says he's going to do? If he says he's going to act this way, is he going to do it? You need to be predictable. I'm sorry, that's just part of it. And I do think maybe I'm putting too much stock into it. Maybe one day we'll know. But in that press conference against Marshall, Coach Clark was kind of like matter of fact. Got to make better. You got to make plays. He didn't make excuses. He was to the point. But I think he's not somebody that's he's going to set the example. He's going to hold the bar really, really high. And here's the thing. This is what we both know, Charles, about Coach Clark. The dude cares. He cares. He cares. So, not to be melodramatic or whatever, but give me Coach Clark in a year of turmoil where we might not play as well, might not be as good, might not be ranked. Give me him leading the team in a difficult time or a good time for all that matter, over somebody that doesn't shed that same black and gold blood.
Right.
I think we are. It would be really interesting to see if that mountain tough mentality that has lasted for so long would have lasted had Mizzou not come into play. It would have been interesting to see. It would have been interesting to see.
Questions and answers we will never know.
Well,
and that's not a bad thing either.
That's right. That's right.
Last one in the satchel for the Facebook group. This is AJ's alert to pull up Twitters. This is from Jay Neal. Late breaking satchel question. What are your initial thoughts on the reports of how Sunbelt will schedule basketball? I would assume based off what we heard today of an 18-game schedule, we will play everybody in the division 4 times except our travel partner, who will only play twice. Very, very peculiar and interesting, to say the least. We're going to get tired of seeing us play.
How does that work?
I have no idea. I really don't. How do you have a tournament, after all that? And how do you seed? You're going to have you're not going to be able to tell who's good, from one to the next if everybody's not playing the same teams. So you're going to have teams getting overseeded. You're going to have, if you have your typical tournament, you're going to have like 2 in the West and then you have 2 in the East. And one of those teams will be significantly better than the other. And some good team might have to play 1 or 2 extra games in the tournament and try to get to March. And this is going to set up a situation where the best team doesn't go to the tournament. And if the best team doesn't go to the tournament because of, the number of games they played, if we have a tournament, then you're not giving yourself the opportunity to have NCAA units that bring money to the conference and bring money to the schools.
Yeah.
So I guess the way I'm coming across that way is I hate it. I hate it a lot because I would venture to say that we know Georgia State's going to be good. They always seem to be. South Alabama and Troy are always tough games. Even if we're just limited to playing the teams in the East is more spread out than the West. That's going to certainly come into play as well. I mean, Mobile ain't no short trip, while everybody else is, Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. That's, even though Texas is a big state, that seems like a much tighter group versus traveling multiple states. Not a fan. Sunbelt's going to have to figure out how to get basketball right one day. They haven't yet.
Well, this is clearly a COVID thing, though. In trying to,
I get that, and reducing travel and all the good stuff, but there's a better way to have a competitive balance.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not in charge of it. I'm and Charles, not to like throw a bucket of water on your rant at all, but what upon hearing this, I saw it on the Twitters a little bit. I think my attitude toward, because I've looked so forward to basketball last year and had such a great time watching this team just get better and evolve and compete last year. It was one of the most fun times I had, just even covering a team. Forget just qualifying with basketball. It was great. So I'm really looking forward to this year. But I have to take that same route to expectations, which is I'll just be glad that there's a game at this point, because now you're not going from like, when I kind of made my thoughts known at the Arkansas State post game show, like seeing so much space just not being used was like, okay, you could have 5,000 more people in this stadium easily and have plenty of space, with, and saying, oh, this is ridiculous. Open air. Are you kidding me? Now, hold on a second, pump the brakes. Now you're going inside, closer quarters, less seats, closer together in a circulating air environment. Okay, all right, so totally different dynamic. People are already, flu season, and people are already indoors and sharing germs. So you already expect more sickness in the winter just from that. So I've kind of shifted my expectations to, I just want there to be basketball season. I will take a terrible setup. I'm not even defending the setup. I don't know enough about it to even defend it, which is why I'm not exactly throwing a bucket of water on your take there. But at the same time, I do have to say, just can you give me basketball? I just want at basketball this year. I want us to develop these guys. Coach Kearns is on a mission. I believe it. You believe we believed it when he reached out to us and said, I want to come on the podcast, and we didn't even know what his voice sounded like. And he's reaching out to us. We believed, all right, this dude is on fire for the program now, obviously getting to know him. I just want basketball season. So if it's going to take a really crappy, set up to play each team 18 times or whatever it is, I may not like it, but if that is the way you're going to give me basketball season and another season to develop and grow as a program, then I will grin and bear it, understanding circumstances.
And for all I know, it may have been Coach Kearns who suggested this model, and it came from the conference's mouth. So I just dislike it.
Yeah, hey, be careful. Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll hear about it.
We've got some Facebook users here. I can't see the people. Again, folks in the 333 Club, if you're going to comment on the thread, for me to see it on my dashboard, go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and approve. Just click that button right there so I can see the names of the people that are in the chat, because I'd like to see. All right, let's go to the Twitters here. Let's go to the Twitter machine. Gabius Maximus, hadn't seen him in the satchel in a while. Will this be the game that we win the third phase? Yeah, I mean, we've had a drop off in special teams for sure. I mean, there's no doubt. I talked about this with Brad Manning on Thursday. Coach Drink took a huge undertaking last year by making himself offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, and head coach, and dedicating an entire coaching slot to special teams. And we all, every single one of us, maybe was not skeptical, but okay, whatever, sure, go for it. But by, very early on in the year, we're like, holy crap, this has been kind of good. Field position's pretty awesome.
Good. Yeah, it worked out.
Wow, this is pretty incredible. So that's definitely paid off. And we've had a drop off, and there's no two ways about it. You just watch it. There's been a drop off in performance, no question. Our special teams coordinator is also the running backs coach, so there's not as much time dedicated to special teams. It's just a scarcity of time. So that's not really critique. It's just kind of Coach Drink dedicated X resources to special teams. Coach Clark is dedicating Y. Is what it is. Maybe the trade off works out. Maybe it doesn't. I view special teams as something that, if you're talking about it, it's either abnormally good or it's pretty bad. If you're not talking about it, you're probably okay. And that was, to me, that was the Stu Holt era when Stu Holt took over from Mark Ivey. Wasn't a very good special teams coordinator, or at least we didn't have very good results when he was there in that spot. But when Stu Holt came and coached running backs and did special teams, I think for a while they were like, hey, yeah, it's pretty good. Stu Holt, yeah, it's pretty good. But we weren't gushing over it all the time. We just knew that we were pretty good. So as long as we
solid.
Yeah, we're solid. As long as we get to the threshold of just not talking about it, I'll be happy. And we weren't terrible against Arkansas State. I just think if we get to the spot where we're really not talking about it anymore, I'll be happy. We don't have to dominate. Just if we're not talking about it, I'll be happy.
Did we lose that phase against Arkansas State?
I don't think so.
I missed nothing. I made all extra points. I mean, did we miss a field goal?
No, I don't think. No, so they missed field goal. So we definitely won the phase. I think there were times they maybe took it back past the 30. That maybe, if I can remember, maybe. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's actually a good point. I don't think we lost it on Thursday at all. So I mean, so in that case, we've made an improvement. But like I said, special teams needs to be something that you're not talking about, because that means it's meeting the threshold of acceptability. So as long as we're getting there, that's fine. And it's weird that we're not kicking in. It's weird that Staten went from being able to put in the end zone to not. That's been kind of interesting. So anyway, it's just interesting to see. That's just kind of a side comment.
I can go on this, but that's another day.
Yeah. Chip Buckwell, who is actually a member of the 333 Club, but he went to the Twitters anyway. He's a rebel. He said the stretch between now and Coastal is similar for them in App, lower division teams with one test. Them as Troy versus for us it's Georgia State. Doesn't seem like three teams are playing well enough to set themselves apart from Louisiana, Coastal, and App. Is that how you see it playing out? I'll tackle that for a second. I think Coastal is the biggest disadvantage that Coastal has is that it's their first time ever being legitimately like a good FBS team. They've had really good teams in the FCS, but obviously they made that jump and they've struggled. They've shown flashes where they could be good. I think Jamie Chadwell is a good coach, but I think this is their first time looking around, going, "Hey man, we're pretty good." And what do we know about that, Charles? I mean, that could be fragile sometimes. You're playing well, and then all of a sudden you get punched in the mouth, and you're like, how do you react to that? How do you react to getting punched in the mouth? Coastal doesn't know the answer to that question. There's a video of them on the internet of celebrating their locker room and being kind of ridiculous in the locker room, which, by the way, I'm just going to hood said, I'm fine with that. These are young men playing a game if they want to celebrate, and just so happens a byproduct of modern technology. Actually, we get to see that via the internet. That's not their fault. But how will they react to the inevitable getting punched in the mouth? Will they be able to bounce back like the grizzled veterans that are used to that? I don't know. And I think they'll have to answer that question. But I think their disadvantage is this is their first time. Whereas App in Louisiana, I mean, obviously Louisiana can't get over the App State hump so far, but we've experienced the bad losses but keep winning. I think that is a huge advantage for our respective teams.
There'll be a time for Coastal right now. I do see where Chip is talking about, but they kind of got by against Georgia Southern last week at home. I think being at home helped. Now they got to go on the road to a team that is absolutely physical in a different way, and it probably might have a better offense right now. Honestly, Georgia State, and they got to go on the road. I think I said they got to go on the road, but they got to go another game without their prize freshman starting quarterback to a guy who's clearly not as dynamic, can make mistakes, and all those good things. So it could be coming soon for Coastal, for all we know, but we'll see. I'll judge how well they are when they get to play someone who's won trophies in this league before.
Yeah, I think it's fair too. And I think they're good. I think they're a good team. I just think that there's a difference between arriving and being good and maintaining it through adversity and playing other good teams that have been successful late in the season. I think they're good, but I think that's not me downplaying them. I think they're a good team. Why in the world? This is from Chip Buckwell again from the Twitters. Why in the world, while still in the game, would Arky State throw two pass trick plays into the end zone to a tight end with two receivers they have on the outside? That's Chip. You know the rules. That's a post game question. That's not a Tuesday evening question, Chip. Come on.
But I kind of mentioned it earlier, I believe.
Yeah, you did.
They couldn't. They did not want any piece of Shamar or Sean Jolly in those situations, and they wanted to do something where they thought they had an advantage, and they clearly did not. I mean, if you're going to throw into triple coverage, have a quarterback do it, not a wide receiver. It's my idea. I really think all night long they were just they outsmarted themselves, and they overthought it, and that's basically what happened.
Yeah. So this question from Fake Ethan Joyce, which is a great follow on the Twitters, by the way, folks. Fake Ethan Joyce at Fake Ethan Joyce is a great follow. He asked a question about a 16-second video clip of Noah Hannon that I haven't watched. So I'm going to play it right now for everybody. Hold on.
Coming from 8th grade where I was playing quarterback, which is where I still should be. If we really want to ask Coach Clark, and I think he regrets that decision every day. Zach does all right.
Hold on a second. I didn't have the volume up for that. Hold on, folks. I'm sorry.
8th grade where I was playing quarterback, which is where I still should be. If we really want to ask Coach Clark, and I think he regrets that decision every day. Zach does all right, but we'll talk about that at another time.
Some massive trash talk from the mayor. Massive trash talk from the mayor about his quarterback. I've never seen him throw a football. I mean, I'm not saying he can't.
I haven't either. It's just interesting to talk junk to your QB who puts his hands up underneath their hind end every day. It's just a very interesting strategy.
It's a good point. Zach's got a lot of control there. So fake Ethan Joyce, in reference to that video, says, with App expected to win by multiple scores this weekend, will we finally get to see our emergency quarterback Noah Hannon get some snaps in the fourth?
The problem here is that we don't. Who's going to snap him the ball? We can't burn a red shirt just because Noah wants to chuck one deep to somebody. I mean, we gotta do what's best for the program here, Noah.
Yeah, and let's. I don't want to see. I will say this: I like Noah a lot. When he's ready to come on the pod, when he's quote unquote eligible to come on the pod, it's going to be a great time. We're going to have our smoking jackets out. It's going to be a great lounge episode. But I don't want to see him try to cash that check. I don't want to see.
No,
I don't want to. I know he's an athletic guy. Believe me, he's a better athlete than I would ever hope to be. But I don't want to see him have to cash that check. But give him props for having personality. The press conferences can be so boring. I don't even like. Be honest with you, I really like Clark's press conferences, and frankly, I love Coach Drink's press conferences too. They make it interesting. So props to Noah for making it interesting. Old Mountain Jug. That's right. Old Mountain Jug. With this game being on Halloween, how bad will we scare the ULM football program into wanting to shut down? Well, just stay tuned for Adam Hunsucker, Old Mountain Jug. We'll talk about the program of ULM. It's pretty desperate. And frankly, just getting back, kind of plugging our guest here, we do have a really good conversation about that topic. They're not going to shut down after the game, but it's interesting nonetheless. Okay, if this is from Gonzo, again, another member of the 333 Club that decided to go on the Twitters. Gonzo says, if ULM's football program were a nation involved in World War II, what country would they be? I have my answer, Charles. I don't know if you have yours.
I do. I've actually had this came across my feeds, and I felt like I needed to do a little World War II brushing up. But I'm going to go Sweden or Switzerland, kind of neutral. They're definitely not an allied force or an Axis power. So I'm going to go with the 100% on the fence answer for that one. Okay,
no, that's great. You lived up to expectations there. I'm gonna say Luxembourg. They had like an army of like 500 people. They had no tanks, no aircraft. They had nothing. They had like no resources, and they pretty much got barreled over like immediately from the German troops on their way to France. And I want to say I saw a statistic at one point. They had the highest. I think they had the highest casualty rate per capita in World War II. Like they lost a pretty significant chunk of the population to that war, which is obviously not funny. But if you're talking about not having resources and just getting kicked in the teeth all the time, I'm going to say Luxembourg.
Makes sense.
But I like the question though. I like it a lot. And then wrapping up the Twitter hashtag BGP Mail Satchel, thoughts on the newly proposed basketball schedule. This is from App State Basketball Susie section. Section 14 needs you on the Twitters. By the way, I commend these guys. There's a collection of app Twitter accounts that have really culturally, I think, done a pretty good job of making App State basketball relevant and cool, and talked about a lot of anonymous accounts or whatever you would call those, hyping the basketball program. So I think that's cool, and they haven't just been created and then go away. They hang around. So that's really cool. I'm glad these guys are getting ready for basketball. That's really cool. It's really cool for us to see, because Charles, for a while, it was just us, just us doing the basketball thing.
Us and a couple others. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, so we just talked about it. We just talked about the schedule and how we hate it, or Charles hates it, and I just want to play, and I know Charles does too. So, now let's get to Danny Stapp. This is wrapping up the hashtag BGP Mail Satchel. Speaking of wrestling, which I didn't know we were speaking of wrestling, but Danny Stapp that's what he says in his email. Who from the current roster would you want as your tag team partner? And here's the thing. I thought when Danny Stapp when I read this first line, I thought he was going to like ask us tag team partners from the App State wrestling roster, to which, no offense to our boys on the wrestling team, but I would struggle with answering that question. But he's going to the professional wrestling route, which is better for me. So Danny says, who from the current football roster, would you want as your tag team partner? See, Danny didn't specify football. He said Demetrius Taylor for obvious reasons. Cam Peoples for the People's Elbow, which is, of course, Charles, I'm going to educate you. That's what The Rock.
I know what the People's Elbow is.
All right. Bear Hunter, since his name. All right. Bear Hunter, since his name sounds like a wrestler or someone else. Whatever you choose, just make sure that Coach Cardwell is your promoter. Coach Cardwell is for sure like a more physically fit, physically overbearing, athletic version of Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South. All you got to do is give Coach Cardwell one of those megaphones that have like the handheld, like, whatever, and he just goes around just running his mouth, circling around the ring. That's exactly what Coach Cardwell would be, the Mouth of the South, Coach Cardwell. Cam Peoples is obvious. I mean, the People's Elbow is such a great pairing right there. Demetrius Taylor, that's a good one too. I don't know. I feel like there's another. I think Henry Pearson. I think Henry Pearson would be a great tag team partner. He's versatile. He's kind of like the strong, silent type, almost like you can see him being pushed to the limit and being kind of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin before he went bald. Kind of the blonde from the Hollywood Blondes, the early WCW. I think maybe Henry Pearson might be a tag team partner.
All right, I'm going to go defense here, and I'm going to say DeMarco Jackson because that dude is big. He looks like a professional wrestler in his upper body, and I think that matches. And then if I was going to pick one other, it would be Caleb Sperlin. Your typical overachieving kind of a guy in all the right ways, works hard, is not going to give up on a play. And then he's going to throw up his signature. He's bringing back the FTC. So, I wouldn't mind having either one of those guys as my partner.
First of all, great selections. I'm going to throw one more in there. I think Zach Thomas, he's going to be my Shawn Michaels pick because Zach Thomas, he's an extremely great athlete, but he's got that, Shawn Michaels Heartbreak Kid kind of swag. He's already got the tattoo that kind of looks like a little bit like the Shawn Michaels tattoo. I think he could do it. I think he's the high flyer / technical wrestler that I would want on my team. He's the Heartbreak Kid, Zach Thomas. I think these are all great selections. DeMarco Jackson is great. That's a great selection. I'm really impressed. I think that's actually one of the better ones there. I think it's better than I don't want to say it's better than Meach. Meach is like Junkyard Dog. He's like Junkyard Dog from the 80s. He's gonna go in there and be rowdy and just take care of business. But DeMarco Jackson, I like that a lot. He's more like a Ron Simmons, I think, maybe. But anyway, I'll get off of that. Thank you, Danny, for the submission there. Folks, we're done. This has been a full episode, a long episode. I want to thank Styles Roofing for sponsoring the hashtag BGB Mail Satchel. Folks, if you're in the greater Charlotte area and are in need of roofing services, there is no one better than Styles Roofing. 704-842-1874. That you can call or text Billy Styles, App State grad. He'll hook you right up, and he'll do a great job. I'm telling you, he's worked on my house. And also thanks to Z-Box Mattress for sponsoring the show. Go to zboxmattress.com. Use promo code Black and Gold for 10% off your order. Playing ULM on Saturday. We'll have an episode on Sunday, a post game. Charles, any parting words for the listeners? No
parting words. I had a full fat satchel tonight.
That's right, we did. Absolutely. I'm sorry.
No, nothing. I guess if for your recording abilities, post game Sunday, next week's show Monday night record, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're recording a little early.
Week,
Yeah,
it's gonna be a little early. But
it's gonna work out. It always works out.
It always does. It always does.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in, downloading this episode of the Black and Gold Podcast. And until Sunday morning, go Apps. Oh man, that is what you call efficiency. We're at 2 hours and 16 minutes, but we've only been like recording for 2.5. Like we've had like 14 minutes of dead not recording space, and that's efficiency right there.
Did we do an open?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I couldn't remember if we did. I guess the beginning of this